What you got over there?
I just hit Facebook Live, so we're probably going to be broadcasting over there in just a second.
All right, perfect. All right, I'm going to send a message. You guys do messages through Zoom, correct?
Yes. Yeah, in the chat box. But you have to do it to everybody. Oh, good. That was great.
Perfect. All right, we got about 60 seconds when we're getting started here.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, Justin, are you able to copy and paste comments from Facebook into the Zoom chat for us?
I think I can. I would just, once we get started, it'll take me a minute to pull that up, and then I'll see what I can do from there.
Yeah, okay. It probably won't be a ton. Well, hopefully it'll be a ton, you guys. Put in your damn questions. But I think that'll make it a lot easier for us.
Perfect.
Hi, Facebook friends. Hello, welcome.
On there, we've got people. All right, it's all working.
Woohoo!
Let me pull up my stuff over here. I got too many computers.
All righty, we'll be getting started here.
For additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericahealth.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management. When you hear so many different ideas about good health, how do you separate the myths from the facts? Welcome to Healthy View Radio with your trio of co-hosts, Andrea Beaman, Lisa Lewtan, and Michelle Pfennighaus. Today, you'll learn what it takes to be healthy and happy within a stressful world from three experts walking their talk. Here is Lisa, Andrea, and Michelle.
Hello, everyone around the world. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to hang out with me, Lisa, and Michelle for another fabulous hour of Healthy View Radio. This is the place to be to get the lowdown on everything you ever wanted to know about health, but were afraid to ask. Today, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Zahler. If you are like most folks and spend the majority of your time working all day long inside and you don't get access to daily sunshine, you could be low on vitamin D. Zahler has a vitamin D3 supplement that can help boost your levels of D and improve your health. And we've got a great deal for you today. So grab a pen and paper and write this down. I'll wait a second. Grab that pen and paper because you're going to want to write this down. Go to ZahlerD3.com. That's ZAHLER D3.com and enter coupon code HVR ZD335. I'll say that again. I know it's a lot of numbers. Enter coupon code HVRDZD335. One more time. HVRZD335. And that exclusive coupon code will get you 35% off your purchase of Zahler Vitamin D3. Now, that's not to be confused with 10% or 20% or even 25%. That is 35% off of your purchase of Zahler's Vitamin D3. So you get to boost your D, improve your health, and get a great bargain in the process. That's the way that we take care of you here at the Healthy View. So now on to our hot topic of the day. We're going to be talking about bloating with a capital blah. And if you are, if your friends have been referring to you as gaseous clay, and you've been knocking them out with your uppercuts of odoriferous bowel odors, or you sit to a meal and afterwards you feel like you're 8 months pregnant with no birth date in sight, you're going to want to stay right where you are. On our show today, we have Dr. Ken Brown, a gastroenterologist, and he's going to enlighten us about bowel health, IBS, and SIBO. So if your belly sounds like you swallowed a cat in heat, you're going to want to hear what he has to say. And now it's time for us to take a deep dive into the bowels and talk about bloating, gas, and pain and all of that uncomfortable stuff. So have you ladies got any good stories to share with our listening audience about gas and bloating? And don't be shy. We're all friends here.
I do. So I'll tell you my story. I had that 8-month pregnant thing for the last 25 years. And I can't tell you how many doctors sent me for colonoscopies and MRIs and told me to take more fiber. And it was only 3 years ago that I finally found somebody to test me for SIBO. Many of you haven't heard about SIBO. You're going to hear a lot about it coming up. But yes, I have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Super, super hard to treat. Long story there. But thanks to Atrantíl, which I'll talk about later, I'm doing so good.
Wow. So for 25 years, you were walking around because you Lisa looks great, you guys. Like, I don't know, you've never seen her in person. Lisa looks amazing. So you were walking around looking 20, like you were pregnant for 25 years?
No, here's the thing. I got Campylobacter, which is kind of like a salmonella type of food poisoning when I was like in my early 30s, maybe late 20s even, after I had my first baby. And it was just weird. It would come and go, come and go. You wouldn't notice it on me, but it's like the kind of thing at the end of the day, you unzip your jeans and it's like, wah, and it doesn't really feel good. Like you kind of start going like, oh, like my body just feels so unattractive, you know, and it was really bothersome, but it would be really bad for a while. Then it would be better for a while, bad. And I just said, this isn't normal. I have to figure out what's really going on here. And nobody really believed me. And even when I finally got this diagnosis, which I was like, thank you. You know, my friends and family were like, you're making this up. That's not a real thing. You know, but lo and behold, it's super common. It's like something like 75 million people, I think, have SIBO, and most of them don't even know it. So you're going to be hearing a lot about this issue in the next coming years. In fact, I believe most IBS cases have SIBO underneath, and I don't even have IBS. So
lucky you.
Yeah. No, I'm so lucky because I feel so healthy. I don't have any symptoms at all except for this bloating. Some people get super, super sick from this stuff.
And what about you, Michelle? What kind of farty stuff you got going on?
I was dying laughing when you said about the cat in heat, like that noise. I never heard it described that way before, but that is perfect. Perfect. Because when I was in my 20s, I was dealing with so many digestive problems, and I was really embarrassed. I was dating my husband at the time, and he would hear these sounds coming from my belly, and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." You know, trying to cover it up. And, you know, the closer you get to someone, you get more comfortable about these things. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what it is. I don't know. My stomach just makes these noises. I went through a lot trying to figure out my digestion. I ended up taking like everything out of my diet. I didn't really know what I was doing elimination diet wise at the time. I just stopped eating like pretty much anything besides like brown rice and chickpeas or something like that. And slowly things got better, but it took me a long time because I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Well, yeah, the cat in heat in your belly is, it was the sounds that I too heard when I first started my journey into health and wellness, right? Got healthy, took out all the crap food. And then I was eating a macrobiotic diet at the time. And it was a lot of grain. Like, you know, this is a long time ago, like 20 years ago. So it was a lot of grain. Like 50% of your plate was grain, which is a lot of grain. So, you know, I would sit down to a meal and the cat in heat was there. And I'd be like, what the heck is that? You know, and at the time I also had candida. So I definitely had digestive stuff going on. I never had the pregnant bloat. But I get gas. I'm going to admit it right now. I get gas. It's a normal thing. I think I once read a quote that people gas like 100 times a day or something like that. Like some hard, like number that you would never think. And the interesting thing is, when I get my period, and for those fellas that are listening right now, period is another word for menstrual cycle. It's not the end of a sentence, dot, right? It's a menstrual cycle. So when I get my menstrual cycle, I actually have more gas, like a little bit of bloating comes and some gas than at other times of the month. And I know today it's because the liver is, you know, it's the storehouse for the blood, and it's got to store the blood and it's got to release the blood. And it also has to do the digestive stuff at the same time. So if there is anything that's compromised within the liver or within the digestive system when you get your period, guys, you don't have to worry about that stuff, getting your period. But when the ladies get their period, there's going to be a tendency toward bloating and more gas. So I no longer have a cat in heat in my belly. Good.
That's good news. I'm glad to hear it. That it can be really scary to the people around you. Well, what you just said was really interesting. You said that, I don't know if that number's true, but people pass gas 100 times a day or even 50 times a day or whatever. That sounds like an awful lot. But I swear to you girls, there was a time in my life I did not pass gas at all because I would not let myself.
Oh.
Yes. What? Just like women are not allowed to have gray hair, and we're not allowed to get older, and we're not allowed to have body odor, and we're not allowed to have, the old Disney films, the Cinderella, she barely has a nose and her feet are always pointed. That's how we're supposed to be in the world, right? You're not allowed to fart. That was the cat in my stomach.
I remember like when I started college and there was a guy I met who had never had sisters, and he was like, girls fart? Like he really thought it was like a guy thing. And I'm like, oh my God, yes. But I'll tell you the weirdest thing with like this SIBO stuff, all that gas, instead of going out the back, it goes into the belly, and that's where it's going. So if you got that big belly and you fart, you're like thrilled. Because otherwise it's just hanging out there in that tummy and making your jeans tight. No fun.
Oh, that's funny. It does hang out there. You have the little pockets and it hangs out there. So we have, there's a healer that I see. I love her to death. And her name is Master Park. And I love her. And she's an energy worker and she does, body work, but she also does directly into your stomach, right? A stomach and bowels. She goes very deeply in there. And I kid to my husband. He says, don't do that. And I call her Master Fart because because she presses and you hear it moving. You hear it gurgling all the way down. And but she's fantastic, but she does move it out and sometimes forcibly.
I love those stomach massages. Oh, out in Miraval in Arizona, they do this Chinese stomach thing where it's like, I spend a whole hour just on your belly. And most people are like, don't go near my belly. I'm like, bring it on. I love that. I wish more massage therapists and practitioners would do belly work.
Have you guys ever done the thing where you lie over a yoga block or a rolled up towel or something to that effect? You just lie on your belly, you put it underneath your belly. A yoga block is hard, so it presses in very strenuously, but a towel would be much softer. When I first learned to do that in a yoga class and I was starting to get in touch with my stomach, I realized, again, women, I don't know if you feel this way. I was constantly holding my stomach in. I was going through life clenched in that area. You can imagine how that affected my mood and everything else, but it certainly wasn't helping things move. So the massaging and this idea of like lying over a block made a big difference for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
You sit right on your belly?
Yeah, you lie down on your stomach and then it would slide right under your belly between your ribs and your hips.
Cool. I'm going to try that up at Kripalu this weekend.
Yeah.
Lots of yoga blocks.
All right, girls. Well, we have some answers coming today because today we will be speaking with Dr. Ken Brown. He received his medical degree from the University of Nebraska. He's a board certified gastroenterologist. Say that 10 times fast. Gastroenterologist. And he has been in practice for the past 15 years with a clinical focus on inflammatory bowel disease. For the past 10 years, he has been conducting clinical research for various pharmaceutical companies. And during this time, he saw the unmet need for something natural that could help his IBS patients find real relief. So after working on the development of his natural alternative for his clients, Atrantíl was launched into the summer of 2015. Dr. Brown and his research team developed Atrantíl with the intent of helping people that are suffering from the debilitating symptoms of IBS. And we have, Lisa is a perfect example. She's going to talk about it, I'm sure. But she's a big fan. She's a big fan of his work and the stuff he's been bringing to the world. So we're really happy to have him on today. So I want you everybody to get your small intestine ready for some answers from a gastro pro. But before we dive down into the human bowels, I'd like to thank our sponsor, Giovanni Eco Chic Cosmetics. By the way, Eco Chic means this line of products is both natural and stylish. You can choose from a plethora of gel, mousse, hairspray, leave-in conditioners, vitamin hair treatments, and hair reconstructors to achieve a unique look and style without having to resort to unnatural alternatives. You can find out more about Giovanni by going to giovannicosmetics.com GIOVANNI. That's GIOVANNI cosmetics.com/HVR. And you get a $2 downloadable coupon. And we'll be right back after the break.
All clear.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nice.
So question, it's only 12:15.
Well, he gave us the countdown.
I know, I noticed that. I wonder why they did it a little early.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. My apologies. I forgot you were 2040.
Yeah. So how does this impact? So we go on at 12:18?
So we'll be coming back in about a minute now.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. And then we have Ken Brown. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There we go. You're connected.
All right, great.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you all doing?
We're good.
We're good. Lisa's been raving about you.
So I'm looking at your pictures, or I'm on the website. Left to right is Lisa. Lisa, can you say hi?
Hi.
Hi, okay. And then Andrea?
How you doing?
There we go. And Michelle.
That's me on the right.
Okay, perfect. Well, I was just trying to get the voices down when you guys were talking. I was trying to put the voices to the face there.
Well, you could watch us on Facebook Live right now.
That's going to be confusing.
Listen, just a heads up, we're going to talk for roughly 18 minutes. So at the end there, as it gets close, I'll give you time to talk about your website and all that kind of stuff. So as we get closer to that point, keep answers a little bit shorter so I don't have to cut you off.
Okay.
Cool.
No problem.
Great.
And we are streaming live to Facebook, even right now during the break. So
All right, here we go.
we could say hello.
You're listening to Andrea Beaman, Lisa Lewtan, and Michelle Pfennighaus with Healthy View Radio. Do you have a question or comment for the show? Please call us right now at 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send us an email from our Voice America radio page. You'll find connections to reach any of the hosts there. Now, back to Healthy View Radio.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is Lisa, and I am beyond excited to get to interview Dr. Ken Brown today. I think Andrea described it really well when she said, our bellies and bowels are very excited to have him on the show. Yes. Welcome to the show, Dr. Brown.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I have the new title of our next study for sure. I'm just going to call it the Cat in Heat bowel trial. When we do our large multinational study with Atrantíl, it'll just be called Cat in Heat.
I love that. Love that. So I have to tell all our listeners how I met Dr. Ken Brown. I was at a conference this summer out in San Diego, and I'm looking over the roster of all the guests, and there are all these famous naturopaths and doctors, and I'm like, creator of Atrantíl? No way. And I literally put out a search party for this guy. We're really looking for him because I was like, I got to meet this guy. Because as I mentioned in the first round, I am a SIBO sufferer. And Dr. Brown was this guy that had researched a natural remedy called Atrantíl. I actually carry it with me all the time, Atrantíl. And I had started using it, but I wanted to know more about it firsthand. And he was so gracious. And I started using it regularly ever since then. And honestly, it's a game changer for me. So Dr. Brown, thank you, number one.
Oh, no, thank you for trying it out and trusting it. That's beautiful. I love hearing that kind of endorsement.
Yeah, no, I tell everybody about it, even my doctor. I like bring it around. I'm like a walking ad. But anyway, so we like to start every guest with two of our Ask Every Guest questions. And the first one is, what did you have for breakfast today?
Oh, I'm staying pretty heavy keto right now. So I had a bunch of bacon and some cheesy eggs and a cup of coffee. That was it.
Yum. That sounds yummy.
Oh, that
Wow.
was it. That was it.
Yeah.
You guys. That was it.
That ought to move you.
And I kind of oscillate between paleo and keto back and forth. And so I'm in my kind of keto phase at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be the place to be right now. A lot of people are in the keto place right now. What is the one thing you do every day that has the greatest impact on your life?
The one thing that I do is I actually try to do some mindfulness meditation. I think that has probably had the greatest it's augmented my life the most. Just a simple 20-minute mindfulness meditation when I wake up every morning. And I think that keeps the busy thoughts under control. You know, I'm still a practicing gastroenterologist. We've got Atrantíl. We're doing shows and different things like that. Sometimes the brain gets to racing a little too much. Learning the mindfulness technique, I think, has helped quite a bit just to calm it down.
Couldn't agree with you more on that one. So we're going to be talking a little bit about IBS and SIBO today, and some of our listeners might not be familiar with those terms. Can you just talk very briefly about what the typical symptoms that somebody suffering from IBS or SIBO might have when they come to see you?
Sure. So one of the problems with the definition of irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, is that it's a kind of a trash can term in our industry. So if anybody shows up with abdominal pain, change in bowel habits relieved by going to the bathroom, then if you do the workup and it's negative, chances are you're going to be labeled as having irritable bowel syndrome. So in other words, you go see a doctor, they do blood work, they possibly do an endoscopy and colonoscopy. You're told that it's normal, you get patted on the head and say, oh, you have IBS. I don't like that definition at all because just about everybody fits it. So irritable bowel syndrome is a diagnosis of exclusion. So if they can't find something wrong, you'll be labeled as having IBS. And that's where we were 10 years ago when we were doing clinical research on irritable bowel syndrome. And Dr. Mark Pimentel was one of the first people to really kind of link the idea that, wait a minute, this abdominal pain is actually being caused by gas, which is being caused by bacteria growing where it shouldn't be. And that's the whole SIBO concept, the whole bacterial overgrowth concept. So that's where the two kind of got married about 10 years ago when that concept started coming over. And now we're seeing a lot more doctors realize that, oh, well, IBS is just a label. SIBO is probably the cause of all these issues. And if we treat the SIBO, then we can get these people feeling better. Does that make sense?
Total. So then the majority of IBS patients really have SIBO.
So we were one of the leading enrolling sites for the Xifaxan trial, where it got its FDA approval for IBS at D. And I have a huge, what you would call IBS practice, and I don't label anybody as having IBS. I always feel like we can find something else. The majority is going to be SIBO. And then when people don't respond to the typical SIBO treatments, we start diving deeper. And I'm finding a lot of really interesting things that have just been missed. And people have walked around with things like celiac disease or Crohn's disease, or even more ominous things like carcinoid syndrome or mastocytosis. These are all diagnoses that I was a second opinion that people have walked around for years because they thought they just had IBS. So I think that there's something to be said about not believing that diagnosis and trying to go deeper and finding a reason.
And at what point did you realize that the traditional protocol just wasn't working for most people? Or
No,
I should say it wasn't working for many people. I don't know for most people, but many.
Yeah, so I'll take you back. So when I was doing the clinical research, Dr. Pimentel and I were talking, and he goes, the problem that we're going to run into is that any of these people that are bloated with constipation, they are not going to respond to the traditional treatment. And here's the reason. When people that have bacterial overgrowth have bloating with constipation, you may have a type of bacteria called an Archaeobacter. The thing that makes these type of bacteria very unique is that they're in their own kingdom, and they produce a gas called methane. So methane-producing bacteria don't respond to the antibiotics that we have available in modern medicine. So we were talking, and he said, this is going to be an ongoing issue. I have animal models that show that we can treat these animals with Xifaxan and these different treatments, and they're not going to get better because nothing really affects this type of bacteria called an Archaeobacter. So I was in my office on a dry erase board, and I had put out the formula for the production of methane. And my research manager came in And we got to talking. And at one point in her career, she was a policy writer for a senator in Iowa. And she remembered that they were trying to decrease methane production in cattle for the greenhouse effect. So we were privy to a lot of this literature. So we knew immediately that if we could figure out a natural way to get rid of these Archaeobacter or these methane producing bacteria, that it would really be a huge game changer, and we would be able to help millions of people. So we started the whole process going, we can do this naturally, and we can do it more effective than the current pharmacologic agents out there.
And it sounds like maybe start to reverse some of the global climate change. Maybe.
Yes. Well, I did overhear you guys talking about the amount of flatulence that gets passed in a day. So yeah, hopefully we can help a little bit of that also.
Oh yeah. What is the exact number? What is, can you enlighten us, Doc?
Would you like the classic med school definition of the typical amount of gas is variable, but anywhere between like 470 mils per 24 hours to 1,500 milliliters in a 24-hour period. So it's not the how many times you pass it, it's the total volume of gas that actually has been measured in medical studies.
That sounds like a big bomb.
There's a big difference between 500 and 1,500 mils. So
who needs windmill power? Like we
are saving the world right now. We are figuring it out.
Stores.
I just always tell my patients it's very funny because it sort of depends on whatever job my patients have that makes them concerned about the amount of flatulence that they do have. Obviously, if you're in close quarters and you can't get away from people, then they're much more sensitive to it. I've got landscapers that never even think about it. So that kind of shows the difference.
So let's go back to this research you were doing. And so was Atrantíl mainly developed for methane gas SIBO sufferers as opposed to hydrogen gas SIBO sufferers?
That is a great question. We started going down that pathway, putting these three ingredients together just to make sure that we could get rid of the Archaeobacter or the methane producer. But keep in mind, what's happening in SIBO is something shocks your upper intestine. We're not talking about your colon. We need our microbiome, but our microbiome should be living in your colon. Once it moves and you start having bacteria grow in the upper intestine, every time you eat, specifically starchy foods, the bacteria will start to break it down before you can, and that's what produces that big bowling ball feeling, and the gas starts going there. So when we developed Atrantíl, we knew that we were really going to have to get rid of the hardest player in that whole cascade, which is the Archaeobacter. In doing so, what we did is actually decrease the total amount of bacteria there. And by taking away the hydrogen, because the quebracho works to soak it up, we effectively treat people that have both hydrogen-producing bacteria and methane-producing. We now know that it's not quite a complete black and white. Because the bacteria are very adaptable, they will kind of shift back and forth. So our initial studies were done on bloated, constipated people, but since we've launched, we've had quite a bit of success with basically if you bloat and have diarrhea, which means you're producing hydrogen sulfide, we're having pretty good results with that as well.
So amazing. You know, one thing people ask me all the time about Atrantíl, they go, oh, is it a probiotic? And I'm like, no. Probiotics are really complicated when it comes to SIBO. Can you explain why?
So the probiotics, it's a great concept. We know that our microbiome is extremely important for us, and we walk around with 100 trillion bacteria in our colon. The problem with the probiotics are that we've had somewhat of a difficult time reproducing the benefits in large clinical trials. That being said, it can be very good for some people. Now, if you have a high bacteria burden or lots of SIBO, one of the things people don't realize is they're trying to overwhelm it by taking probiotics. You can be adding gasoline to the fire. So if you've got a bunch of bacteria having a party in your small bowel, you go, oh, I want to feel better. I'm going to take, 80 billion units. A lot of my patients actually come in and they're like, I've been taking these probiotics and I feel way worse. So in some people, we actually say don't take any probiotics while you're being treated because that could be contributing to the problem. That's one of the issues, is it's almost like adding fuel to the fire, so to speak.
And so would that also apply to eating fermented, like lacto-fermented vegetables?
A debated topic. Certain protocols like Cedars-Sinai protocols, they don't let any of their patients have fermented foods or probiotics. I'm not as strict with that because I'm actually kind of a fan of fermented foods, kimchi and things like that, because that's got polyphenols in it. And the bacteria are actually kind of interwoven into the, through the fermentation process. And that can actually go to the colon and start helping your colonic bacteria also, which we want that to keep going. So I'm not really strict on the whole eating fermented foods. I do have almost all my patients come in that are already on a probiotic. So it's really easy to say, well, it's not working. Why don't we just hold it?
And what are some of the benefits, the other benefits they get from having those polyphenols in their diet?
This is something you're going to be seeing a whole lot of. The polyphenols, what they are is they're a class of molecules that are on like the skins of vegetables and fruits. And we now know that those are the molecules that are probably the most beneficial component of the Mediterranean diet. So there's been a lot of research where we realize that these polyphenols, you take them in, they work sort of as an anti-inflammatory in the intestines a little bit, but when they get to the colon, your colonic bacteria are able to break these polyphenolic compounds down into beneficial things that your body needs. So in other words, what people like in the Mediterranean area do, they eat about 10 times as much polyphenols as we do. What they're doing is they're continually giving their bacteria good resources and letting them decide what your body needs. So I always kind of joke around with my patients. I say, we look at a woman who's pregnant and you go, oh, she's eating for 2, but we should all be eating for 100 trillion. And one way to do that would be to really increase the amount of polyphenols that you have. Some of the studies that are going on with it are really, really, really cool. For instance, there was a study that came out where it looked at a pomegranate extract, the particular polyphenol in that, and they noticed that our colonic bacteria break that down into something that makes aging and sick mitochondria go away. To put it a different way, when you take something like that, it's an anti-aging food, because the reason why we age is our cells get older, our cells get sicker, and then they start showing the damage. This is one way that you can actually get your cells to police themselves and go, oh, you are getting too slow. Why don't you just go away? And it's a compound called urolithin. They've even narrowed it down to what compound it is. So this is the kind of cool research that's going on right now. A lot of things have been trying to manipulate the microbiome. And there's a lot of researchers now realizing, let's quit trying to shove one type of bacteria at it or do whatever. And if we can just get the microbiome to be very diverse, meaning you got lots of different species, the best way to do it is to just continually feed those bacteria what they want, and they'll continue to proliferate and they'll do all the things that your body really needs. It's pretty fascinating how we're learning how we're interacting with our own bacteria.
Crazy fascinating. But you had me at anti-aging over there. So what were some of those anti-aging?
It's always a whole lot easier to get my patients to try and change their diet if I say anything regarding weight loss or anti-aging.
Oh, yeah.
If I say cardiovascular health, dementia prevention, coronary artery disease, diabetes prevention, which it does all those things also.
Who cares about that stuff?
I go, but you're going to look younger. And they go, oh, what do I need to start eating again? Like, okay, there we go. So that's our target.
Dementia too. I think that would be kind of a big bummer,
Yeah, that's the, that's one of the things. I was in Spain last summer, and I'm walking around, and like 70% of the people seem to be smoking, and they're eating what they want, cured meats and bread for breakfast, and drinking wine with most meals. And everybody says, oh, it's because they exercise a whole lot more, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. I mean, I was there for a full month. I came back and I started looking up the incidence of chronic disease. And here in America, it's sad, but we're number one in diabetes. We're number one in dementia. We're number one in coronary artery disease. What is going on? Those are horrible stats. And here we're trying to prevent it. We got gyms on every corner. We're always talking about weight loss. People are always trying to figure out the newest thing, the drug to take to prevent this. And you're looking at other countries that just don't seem to pay that much attention, and they outlive us. It's got to be something in the way that we're eating.
Yeah, I agree. And you said something really interesting. You said that there's a variety of species that need to be fed in our microbiome. So wouldn't it make sense for people to eat seasonally, to change because each season the bacteria changes in the soil. And so if we're eating seasonally, wouldn't we be giving our bacteria a variety of different foods and bacteria as well?
Oh, I got to tell you, I think that's brilliant. And I've never thought of it that way, but that's absolutely brilliant because we do know that the more that you feed a certain bacteria, the more that bacteria can actually send signals to get more of that. And what I mean is when you have people that eat a very high refined sugar diet and you look at their microbiome diversity, it's very limited. And there is some evidence to show that those bacteria are making you crave it more because they're demanding more. So you're almost not under the same control. It's pretty interesting. I got in a long discussion with an author named Tricia Nelson where she wrote a book called Heal Your Hunger, and it's the emotional eater aspect. And we got into a long discussion about this, like, wow, some of this could be that the bacteria are making you crave certain things. It's not just that you want it. It's that you're growing this more species that wants that. On the flip side, listening to what you're talking about, seasonal eating, they recently found an African tribe that's one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes. So they move and they eat what they can get. They eat what's growing seasonally. And they have a predominantly plant-based diet, but they can get the protein when they can get the protein. And they analyze their stool, and they have some of the most diverse microbiome of any population base that's actually been studied, which is super fascinating and fits to exactly what you just said.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
So, Dr. Ken, where can people learn more about you and your incredible product, Atrantíl?
Your listeners can go to a website called lovemytummy.com. And if you go to lovemytummy.com/HVR for you, I think we're giving your listeners a special discount using the code HVR.
Woohoo.
That's for Healthy View Radio, HVR. Well, I can't tell you how fabulous it was having you on the show today. And I know I learned so much, and I'm sure our listeners learned so much as well. So thank you.
Yeah, since it's Facebook Live, I'm going to have to get back to work here. I'm actually in clinic. But certainly if anybody wants to ask some Facebook questions, I'm sure that our team would love to answer it as well. So.
Oh, it's very generous of you, Doc.
Yeah, that's awesome. So listeners out there, type your questions in the comments and we'll get great answers for you. So right now we need to take a little short break. And if you need to use the bathroom, this is a great time to do so. And then we'll be back talking more about your health and ours. See you in a bit.
All clear.
Thank you, Ken.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. You guys have fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc.
Echo here after we're done. So the cat and heat, I'm going to use that one.
Listen, you got to give us credit. You got to credit HVR.
I will. Yeah, we'll put a little, the whatever it is, like the little asterisk that says
The little R.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Lisa's been raving about you and your products for a while. Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. Have a great day.
All right. You ladies have fun. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Do we have anyone else that was going to be joining us?
Just us today.
Oh, already then. Oh, we still got 30 seconds, then we'll be back.
Okay.
We can rename this episode Cat and Heat with Ken Brown.
The cat and So Michelle's going to bring us back.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah. What do we got? 500 billion tons of methane? And what's that? Just a little bit.
Let's start giving all the cows this Atrantíl stuff. I don't know. Like,
I think it's a new energy source. So we should be early investors in this technology.
You start it up, Lisa. I'll be right there.
In my spare
Here we go. We're
time.
coming back. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Here we go.
Thanks.
You're listening to Andrea Beaman, Lisa Lewtan, and Michelle Pfennighaus with Healthy View Radio. Do you have a question or comment for the show? Please call us right now at 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. Or send us an email from our Voice America radio page. You'll find connections to reach any of the hosts there. Now, back to Healthy View Radio.
Welcome back to Healthy View Radio. This is Michelle Pfennighaus, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Andrea Beaman and Lisa Lewtan. Today, we've been talking about bloating, IBS, SIBO, all kinds of digestive discomfort, and basically retelling the story of my 20s. So I appreciate the walk down memory lane, you guys. Speaking of all this stuff, I want to thank our sponsor, Atrantíl. If you suffer from any of the aforementioned conditions or diarrhea, constipation, and of course the bloating, and you want a natural solution that supports good health, go to lovemytummy.com/HVR and get 10% off your purchase. That's lovemytummy.com/HVR for Healthy View Radio. Now, some of our listeners may already know this, but Andrea, Lisa, and I are all practicing health coaches. That's what we do for a living. And we take a holistic, integrative approach to health. So as we've been talking about digestion and bloating today, and the foods that we're eating, and what happens in somebody's microbiome when they eat too much sugar, et cetera, I can't help but think about some of my clients. And I was wondering, what are some things that you guys are seeing in your practice, or maybe some successes that you're having?
So I loved what the doctor said about the taking the probiotics and it not helping certain people. So when I get a client that their mind cannot shut off and they're not feeling good, like I know the connection between the small intestine and the mind in traditional Chinese medicine, right? So if they tell me that they lie down to bed at night and they can't, the thoughts are going, and they can't stop, I tell them, stop taking any probiotics that you're taking, right? Because the whole body is connected. And wouldn't you know it? Every single time they take out the probiotics, the thoughts kind of calm down a little bit. It's because the bacteria is very active, talking to each other. Hey, having a little party, right? Then the mind is going, okay, let's have a party too. The whole thing is connected, right? So that's one of the things that I notice with clients. You know, if they have that mental chatter that is incessant, they get off the probiotics.
That is so cool, Andrea, because everyone I meet in the world has that going on. So I think I have a new thing to pull out of my back pocket to tell them I never knew there was that probiotic connection. Wow.
Yeah, well, you know, the doctor said that sometimes it's one specific bacteria that is in there, right? So there could be, like, for the people, the standard American eaters, let's say they're just having white flour and you know, sugar and all that. They're feeding one specific bacteria. So they're going to have a thought that is stuck in a crag. Whereas you have the other side of the field, the people that are in the health and wellness industry that are going probiotic crazy and kombucha all day, fermented veggies with every single meal, right? And they're having, there's so many thoughts. I can't get my mind together, right? There's everything all over the place. So you have to look at, you know, the whole body is connected. It's having all of these reactions and it's showing up here.
That's really interesting, because I was thinking of a client of mine, just to continue this conversation of like the connection between the gut and the mind, who I'm speaking with her, and it really just feels like her energy is stuck. Everything's just, I'm okay. Sounds good. You know, and it's like hard to get some fire under her butt, you know?
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And as we're working together, you know, she said, you know what? I've been having such an easier time going number 2. You know, I forget how she said it, but she said it delicately, of course, because she's a lady. Back to that whole thing. But, you know, she said she had never even told me that she had been constipated. But and sometimes people don't even realize it because to them it's normal if you only poop, once a week or something. But she said, "Oh, I'm actually going every day." I said, "Oh, wow. I didn't realize you weren't before." And she said, "Yeah, and it's just so much easier." And I thought, it's like something's stuck. Something's been stuck in her.
Literally.
Literally.
Yes.
But, and, starting to see some more energy in her mind as well.
Well, I think there's that whole food mood, connection. And then when we bring in that gut bacteria piece, and that's that whole new understanding around it. And I know I do a lot of elimination diets with people and a lot of work around sugar. And the biggest thing I see is mood. That's like, oh, isn't that interesting? That makes me gassy. Isn't that interesting? That makes me sleepy, blah, blah, blah. But the mood piece is huge. And, for me, I try to stay away from sugar a lot, not all the time, but a lot because of mood. It's not because of a weight thing. It's not because of, really any other reason. Then I want to be a happy person. And I have found that's what it takes for me to feel like a happy functioning person.
Oh, that's good. With my clients, I love them. I love them because they bring me so much stuff. And when I tell them, I have these online programs. So I have my Nourishing Thyroid program right now. And in the first module, I go through every single food that you could imagine, right? A nice diverse diet. And then I tell them that they have to eat seasonally. And they're like, what does that mean? What? Seasonal? You mean like what's in the grocery store? And I'm like, no, no, I want you to actually go to a farmer's market and see what is available at each time of year, meaning you're not going to have broccoli, even though it's a healthy food, you're not going to have broccoli every single week at the farmer's market, especially if you live in a 4 or a 5 season climate. Not going to happen. So remember what the doctor said about changing. There's the different bacteria needs to be fed. When we rotate our diet with the seasons and what's available at each time of year, within the soil is different bacteria every single time. Every single time. So when I shift, I send them, okay, here's all the food that you can eat, but you can't have watermelon in December in New York City. Even you can get it in any grocery store. I understand that. I get it, but don't have it. Feed your body what the seasons provide, because this is going to make the internal environment in harmony with the external environment and feed the right bacteria.
Yeah, and what's so great about that is that somebody's not going to go and grab asparagus from a can. They're going to go get fresh asparagus. And also what I love about seasonal eating, when you start thinking about it, in the springtime, it's getting warmer. You're eating those lighter lettuces. As the winter's coming, you're eating those heavier, squashes. And it makes so much sense. But most people just are not really thinking about it that way.
But they're doing it. I mean, a lot of people will naturally gravitate towards these things given the choice, right? But if you walk into the same Panera every day for lunch, they got the same options any week of the year. So I think this is kind of also goes back to doing more cooking and shopping in the first place.
Yeah, which nobody wants to do. I hear it all the time. They're like, what? You want me to what? Get in the where? That place, that thing where I can sometimes go for water?
Yeah.
That's so true. I mean, I've been holding cooking classes lately on my Facebook page, and it's been a big hit. Even people who know how to cook, don't you just love watching the Food Network sometimes and seeing how people are putting things together? I like to pretend that I have all those people prepping my ingredients for me, even though it was really just me 5 minutes ago. But it feels good when it's all pre-measured like that.
Last night, I was running my Living It group, and we were invited by an appliance showroom that does cooking classes. They wanted us to all come in, and they made dinner for us. And it was delish. It was like salmon and like kale salad with carrots. And the point was for, them to show us how simple it is to make a really good, healthy meal. But we just got lucky and had a really good dinner.
I'm guessing, you guys, that I bet none of us have clients who come to us because they want to learn how to cook, certainly, or they want to improve their mood. They probably don't think that that's why they're showing up.
Well, sometimes it's the rare bunch, I have a healthy health and wellness cooking certification program, and it's the rare bunch. It's the people that actually understand the concept of food and health that want to get into the kitchen. The people that are showing up to your Facebook page for your cooking classes, those are the people that are like, okay, I know that there's a connection. I need to know that this is important. This is health insurance. Getting into the kitchen and cooking is your health insurance, hands down.
Absolutely.
It's also delicious. Look, I look at
Yes.
I look at her pictures on Instagram of what she's making, and I'm like, can I come to your cooking class? Like, they look so good and easy, and I'm so impressed. She's cooking these incredible meals every night.
And she has kids. And
Yeah.
I hear from clients all the time, constantly, my kids aren't going to eat this. They're not going to eat that. And what? Who's the parent? Who's making the rules? Was the 4-year-old making the rules in the house? What?
Not in my house. I make one meal. My kids either eat it or they don't. That's it.
Good girl.
That's
I'll
just
eat
how
it.
it's always been. I was thinking that most people are coming to me in the first place because they want to lose weight, right? That's just the thing that often is getting them in the door. And even though that happens and people lose weight, I think that when we improve digestion as a first step, and we have people cooking more as a first step, the weight loss comes. It comes slowly and sustainably over time. But, I had a recent client. She's a nurse. She always had phones, like 3 phones ringing on her body at any given moment. She came to me like, I want to lose weight. Oh, yeah. And I've got a lot of gas. I'm like, all right, sister. When I did that thing with her where you chew one bite of rice or one mouthful of rice like 100 times just to see what happens. It's pretty amazing. So for any listeners who are curious about this, get 1 scoop of brown rice and put it in your pie hole 100 chews later. What we're talking about the digestive enzymes that are happening in your mouth. I had her do that, and I had her start taking some apple cider vinegar and a small amount of water. Those 2 things alone, and the gas was like 90% relieved. And we got to the weight loss, but that came later.
Yes, that comes naturally, actually.
Yeah.
So I remember I was talking about my Nourishing Thyroid program. In my module number 2, almost the entire thing is about chewing and the digestive process. And that digestion does not begin in the stomach. It begins here, and it begins with your senses. So if somebody smells their food before they stick it in their pie hole, if they look at their food and it looks appetizing, you're going to stimulate your digestive juices, and that's going to help you absorb the food better and excrete the waste. So I had, how are we doing on time? I had a client who had, she was 54 years old, right? And she wanted to lose weight. And I said, okay, first thing we have to do, and she was hypothyroid. I said, first thing we have to do is we have to chew food. And she goes, what? I'm 54 years old. You don't think I know how to chew my food? I said, okay, just, for shits and giggles. I just want you to, just for 2 weeks until we talk again, I'd like you to chew 25 times per mouthful and then tell me your thoughts, right? Next time that we spoke, she said, oh my God, she goes, I was literally swallowing my food. She said, I would take 1 bite, 2 bites, and boom, it went down the hatch. I said, this is one of the reasons why you gained 30 pounds. So all she did was change. I mean, she changed her food, but there wasn't a big, go to the gym 27 hours a week. Chewing, the weight started to come off. Slowing down, relaxing, looking at food, smelling at food before shoveling it into the face, right? Before putting it into the system. Makes a huge difference. And I think that this is part of the reasons why so many people have digestive problems in the first place.
I would absolutely agree.
Smoothies. Have you ever heard that? Like, chew your smoothie. And it's like, what?
Well, yeah, but they're saying to chew it, right? So at least you can sort of mimic the chewing action to stimulate the body's digestive system.
That's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, chew your smoothies. Or how about this? Don't make smoothies. Just eat greens a different way, guys. So in today's discussion, I think overall I'm thinking that most people think that their digestive issues are normal. They don't even think that they're issues. They just think that's how life is. I know that's how I felt. I thought it was normal to be doubled over in pain in the bathroom at the bar while all my friends were out having fun, dancing with guys. I just thought that's how life was. So just because something's common doesn't mean that it's normal. Having gas pain, the bloating, the constipation doesn't have to be a way of life. And, that really is your body sending you signals. So I want you guys to kind of give your big takeaways from today's topic as well. And also share with our listeners your health coaching URL, where we always talk about our guests and where we can find our guests, but what about us? So for me, my website is findyourbalancehealth.com.
So I just want to say also that if you do know something's wrong and your doctor says you're fine, don't take that at face value, because sometimes doctors aren't as up to date on a lot of these gut health issues as some of the other integrative or functional doctors are. So keep looking for answers. I mean, I hate to say it, it took me 25 years, but I did get the answers eventually because I trusted my gut that something wasn't right. And I'm really happy that I did, because I finally could have relief. Anyway, my website is healthyhappyandhip.com. And I'd love for you to stop by and say hi.
I'd like to stop by and both you gals and say hello, because I think you're fabulous. Yeah, I mean, my takeaway from this to share with people is that to slow down, right? First of all, slow down. You know, like our gut is, this is a symptom of something else that's happening, right? We're out of balance. We're out of balance in so many ways. So slow down, because while we're here on the planet, we have to be able to absorb our food for our mind, for our body, right? The food builds the body, but according to ancient wisdom, it also is responsible for our thoughts and how we're thinking and how we are in the world. So slow down, relax, chew your food. And my website is www.andreabeaman.com, and I'd be happy to show you how to chew.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Thanks to our guest, Ken Brown, for joining us for this episode of Healthy View Radio. It's been a real gas. Catch us next week, live streaming at healthyviewradio.com, and subscribe on iTunes. We'll see you there.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
All clear.
Is it really all clear?